To the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stiltore, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, I've been featuring each Filles du Roi, or King's Daughter, and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them, so we've got a long way to go. We've come a long way. We're on number 183, if you can believe it. But before we begin, let me show you ways you can help the channel. The first three keep you in the know. You can subscribe, you can like, and you can notify. All of that helps my logarithms and expands the channel's reach. The next three are ways to help the channel financially. One is thanks. A super thanks that I was permitted to do once I had reached 1,000 subscribers. So thank you to all of you for helping me achieve that. And so YouTube puts that up. It's on your dashboard, your YouTube dashboard. And then we have also Coffee and Patreon, which are on different platforms, and you can have a look at that and see if that's something that would interest you as well. But thank you to all of you who have supported me thus far. I truly am blessed that I have so many wonderful subscribers. Thank you so much. Let's get to know our Filles du Roi of this episode. Next episode, Francoise Bourgeois, episode 183, was actually suggested by a viewer. I do not have her in my files, so it was with joy that I explored her, and I had a few surprises. So let's get to know her and her life story. She was born in 1646 in Paris, France, in the parish of Saint Paul. Her parents were Antoine Bourgeois and Marie Piedmont. Now, you can see that in the map, Ile-de-France, kind of a little skilted there. And she is born in the 4th arrondissement, that we'll get into in a little bit. The church that she was baptized in was constructed between 1627 and 1641, so it was brand new when she was there. It was originally a Jesuit church that had been the first one in Paris to abandon its Gothic style and adopt the more Baroque one. In 1762, when the Jesuit order was forbidden and banished, the church was entrusted to some other clergymen of the neighborhood. So it's got this kind of really almost defiant kind of feeling. This arrondissement that she is from is actually situated on the right bank of the River Seine. And the 4th arrondissement contains the Renaissance-era Paris City Hall, rebuilt between 1874 and 1882. It also contains the Renaissance Square of Place des Vosges, the overtly modern Pompidou Center, and a lively southern part of the medieval district of Le Marais. The eastern part of the Ile de la Cité, including Notre-Dame de Paris, as well as the Ile Saint-Louis, are also included within the 4th arrondissement. The 4th arrondissement is really known for its streets and its cafes and its shops, but it's regarded by Parisians as being very expensive and very congested. It's desirable truly for those wanting to mix the old buildings and a mix of many cultures. So that's kind of how it was described to me. This here on the top right is a picture of the 4th le quartier, l'arrondissement, le 4e arrondissement, the 4th arrondissement, the 4th circle. And you can see it on the map here where it would be. So let's find out why she comes to New France. So she, after her father's death, as so many Filles du Roi, really and truly, they weren't married. They needed to have essentially someone to look after them. So they were sent, and they were, really recruited. She left for Canada with a dowry worth about £100, and she came on Le Jean-Baptiste on June 30th, 1669. So the groom that she selected and who selected her, his name, Paul Vigneault de Laverdu. He was born in 1641 in Poitiers in France, in the Saint-Cybard parish. His parents are Jean Vigneault and Renée, with a question mark, don't know her maiden name. Poitiers is a city on the Clay River in west central France. It's a commune that is part of the Vienne department, which in turn is found inside the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region. So Nouvelle-Aquitaine, Vienne is the county, and inside that is Poitiers. Eleanor of Aquitaine frequently resided in the town, which she embellished and fortified, and in 1199 entrusted with communal rights. In 1152, she had married the future King Henry II of England in the cathedral at Poitiers. It is truly history steeped. It was founded by the Gauls and rose to prominence as the former capital of Poitou. A pivotal turning point occurred somewhere in 732 when, somewhere near Poitiers, the exact site is not known, the cavalry of Charles Martel defeated the Muslim forces and thus ending Muslim attempts to conquer France. Until the revolution, this sublimely beautiful town was known as the town of 100 bell towers. The remarkable Romanesque churches that remain today are in part a legacy of Eleanor of Aquitaine's financial support. I love whenever I get to know like there was some powerful woman behind her. And I wanted to point out, obviously I don't have a picture of the church where he would have been baptized. This is an old style depiction of where it would have been. And this on the bottom is Poitiers as it looks today. So he would arrive in September of 1665 as a soldier with the Maximi Company of the Carignan-Salieres soldiers. So here's the deal. A funny thing happened on the way to the chapel. They signed a marriage contract in October 1669, but somehow they didn't get around to getting married. Francoise did have a child the following year in October of 1670. And then on November 3rd, 1670, they finally were wed. I like to think they were an avant-garde couple that didn't care. You know, they were just kind of like, I don't care. We're just doing this. We're living together. We have a child. So I really, you know, maybe I'm romanticizing. Maybe it wasn't his, but I suspect it was. They signed a contract and they just didn't get around to getting married. I love it. So Paul and Francoise would settle on Ile d'Orléans. Ile d'Orléans is located on the St. Lawrence River, about 3 miles east of downtown Quebec City. The island was one of the very first parts of the province to be colonized by the French, and a large percentage of French Canadians can trace their ancestry to early residents of the island. The island has been described as a microcosm of traditional Quebec and as the birthplace of Francophones in North America. Now, this is the 1681 census, where you can see Paul and Francoise, their children, Maurice, Geneviève, Antoine, Pierre. They only have 2 enfants à valeur, which is about an acre, maybe a little less, of land. So interesting. I also want to point out that Ile Saint-Laurent, Ile d'Orléans, is not a uniform thing. You need to know where your family, you know, kind of settled, whether it was Saint-Pierre, Saint-Famille, Saint-Croix, Saint-Laurent, or Saint-Pétronille. The earliest were at Saint-Famille. This was the earliest parish that was settled. So that's important to note. So here's where the story gets really, really challenging, because they would end up having 12 children. But as you can see, I wanted to show you visually how it manifested. So we have so many children that passed away. Only 2 survived. So we have Françoise, Pierre, Marie. Finally, Maurice would marry Marguerite Comeau and have 6 children, 5 of whom would adulthood. This branch of the family would settle in what is Port Royal, Acadia. Geneviève would pass away. Antoine would marry Madeleine Pichet and have 4 children, all of whom would make it to adulthood. Then we have Pierre, Marie, Catherine, Michel, Philippe, and François. Can you imagine the heartache of this? There are no words. So when I got to know this section, I was like, okay, what's this? The Real Housewives of New France. This is like a new TV series I'm going to start, right? Françoise was brought before the Conseil du Québec in July of 1679 by a certain woman named Marie Breval, who was the wife of Pierre Louisenot. Apparently, Marie had called Françoise a whore, and Françoise, of course, hit her. Marie was injured, seeking some financial compensation for her medical treatment. Marie won that case, and both were told to speak well of each other in the future, and that their husbands were told to fight for their wives, were told not to fight for their wives' honor as well. So, in other words, everybody stand back. So I just thought this was like, really, honestly, nothing changes, right? So we don't have any death records for either Paul or Francoise. The earliest record where we find him alive is in 1690. The latest record where he's listed as deceased is February of 1703. So somewhere between those 2 days is when Paul would have passed away. Francoise herself would pass away after 1704, as this is the last record we have for her. They would have been married between 20 and 33 years. I like to think that they died within a year or so of each other. The descendants as of 1729 would only be 25, but the legacy remains, as my viewer can attest. And now we come to another resource that I found. This is our Free French-Canadian Ancestor. This is a Facebook page that I want you to try to find. And inside this Facebook page is an amazing wealth of files. In the 1980s and 90s, Thomas Laforest had translated the original books of our French-Canadian ancestors. And what they've done in this particular website is they've actually uploaded all of the biographies. So you can have all of them, they're in alphabetical and that sort of thing. So I've actually given you a link to that particular group. And this is Paul Vigneault, and there's much more information about him as well. So there is something else to research. We have La Famille de les Vigneault. I've posted the web address in the notes, so you can have a look at that. Certainly that is of interest if this is your descendancy. And of course, on Ile d'Orléans, we have Paul Vigneault and Francoise Bourgeois listed there in Saint Laurent, 1668. They are on that famous monument. They were pioneers at Ile d'Orléans, so you can be very, very proud of that. And of course, we have a rose by any other name. We have Vigneault, 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 La Verdure, Maurice, and Saint-Jacques. All of these families have taken their turn. Now remember, there's only 2 descendants, so you'll have to look within the families how it kind of evolved. And this is from the page 203 of our French-Canadian Ancestors that deals with Paul Vigneault. And of course, I have my usual resources. I've added a new one, La Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi. It is a society that is very, very active, and it's also produced a series of 5 books that I've been recommending when and if it can work. And I also want to point out WikiTree. I've been using it more and more as time has gone by. Want to point that out, and all of the other resources are listed in the notes section. So we end episode 183. Francoise Bourgeois, what a life she led. A life of some sort of tragedy and some triumph. But ultimately, she had a hard life. There's no question. To have given birth to 12 children and only have 2 that made it, there are no words. But she survived. I mean, she kept going. And was honestly a pioneer at Ile d'Orléans. So for that, my viewer, who is a descendant, can be very, very proud of the contribution that Francoise made. We bless her memory, and we are thankful that she came to our shores. Thank you, Francoise. Until I see you on episode 184, au revoir.